The main character of the story, Lucas, kneels in tears in front of his wife, Bella. He begs her consent to divorce, bows to the floor. Bella grins contentedly, seeing his humiliation, and agrees to get a divorce. She sits relaxed on a chair, looking down at Lucas as he bows. Pushing the man with her foot, she wants to know what he can offer her in response to the divorce. Lucas barely holds back the tears welling up in his eyes, biting his lips from this humiliation. His life is not going well, and the reason for this is his family, namely his hated father. All day long, the old man drinks or gambles and raises his voice at his now adult son. After his mother's death, Lucas lived with him because he was his only family, although the man did not pay any attention to his son. Lucas is forced to take on many part-time jobs, in addition to his office work, in order not to go broke. He also works at a diner as a waiter to support himself. One day he sees a family, a father and a young son, walking into their diner. The child plays pranks and spills water. The father turns to Lucas for a towel or napkins. Despite the fact that the child is not aware of the inconvenience caused, the father does not yell at him but takes care of him. He realizes that he envies other people's family closeness. At home, the father, once again drunk, asks to lend him 10 million won. Lucas is shocked by this request because it is a lot of money for him. He tries to reason with his father, but he promises to return what he borrowed and double the amount. He talks about the emergence of a new currency that is supposed to completely change the future, and in which he wants to invest. Lucas replies that hard-earned money is more important to him than a dubious chance to make money. The father does not want to hear any excuses. He admits that he was always hopeless, drank and raised his hand against his son. However, now he asks Lucas for another chance to change. The father asks for this so desperately that tears come to his eyes. Lucas is annoyed, but he cannot refuse his father and eventually agrees to his request. But he wants too much to save their family, to try to make it normal. He wants to trust his father for the last time and gives him a loan. He actively thanks Lucas, hugs him, and promises that his son will not regret it. Nevertheless, his joyful cries do not inspire Lucas with much hope for success, and for good reason, since very soon Lucas's last relative will also go to another world. He holds his father's funeral, and thoughts about the currency he bought fade into the background. Lucas's father died in a car accident. Experts say he lost control due to rain and died on the spot. Lucas feels sad to lose the last member of his family, but at the same time he feels freed. With mixed feelings, he spends his rest time drinking, just like his father did not long ago. Left alone, he reflects on the strangeness of his life. The TV he watches at dinner shows an interview with a young man. Despite his young age, he has already achieved great success and works in the investment field. Lucas wonders if this big success is buying a house or something else. However, it turns out that they are talking about large assets amounting to 4 billion Korean won, which makes Lucas cough. The host asks the young man what he invested in, and he reveals that he chose bitcoins, the very currency Lucas's father was talking about. Lucas puts two and two together and realizes that the man on screen got rich doing something he didn't believe in. He looks at his phone lying on the table, wanting to make sure he heard everything correctly, and loads his online wallet. The presenter reflects on how profitable it would be to invest in Bitcoin at the very beginning of its journey. The interviewee is sure that no one expected such an active rise in prices. But if someone had invested in him at the time Lucas's father did, his investment would have grown 2,500 times. Lucas has a huge amount in his account, and he almost loses consciousness, unable to believe what he sees. The rise in the price of Bitcoin has driven many people around the world crazy, and Lucas feels like he can barely hold on. He has 25 billion won in his account, which is 2,500 times his initial investment. Lucas spends the entire evening in shock, constantly checking his online wallet. To clear his head, Lucas rides his bike outside, despite the cool weather. Even after a while, he still can't believe that he has more than 20 billion in his account. At home, he can't stop checking the market price, which is changing at incredible speed, so he decided to change the situation. The amount in his account grew by several hundred million overnight. Lucas can't decide whether he should sell his assets now, because he already has a huge amount. He returns to his dilapidated house, torn by contradictions. He thinks that since he has been frugal all his life, he can be patient. But curiosity is stronger than him, and Lucas decides to check his savings once again. He prays in disbelief, sweating as the amount changes once again. During the time he went to clear his head, his assets increased by another $2 million, which means he already has 2 billion won. Despite his increased wealth, Lucas still goes to work in the office. The head of the department to which the hero belongs is thinking at a meeting about possible clients of the company. Company employees discuss possible risks from cooperation with a clinic located in Busan. The head of the department assumes that someone from the group will need to be sent to Busan on a business trip. Apart from Lucas, no one takes initiative in this matter. Everyone averts their eyes. The head of the department tries to see if Lucas is sure because he looks very tired, but he just spends all his time studying his assets. So Lucas says that everything is fine. The head of the department decides that Lucas will need one more person to help him, then Sue. one of the most beautiful and popular girls in the company, volunteers to go with the hero to Busan. Lucas's colleagues look at her, dreaming of spending time together. Other male employees immediately start shouting that they also want to go on a business trip. But the boss decides that 2 people are enough and Lucas and Sue will go to Busan. The heroes travel by car to their destination to resolve business issues. Sue says she loves driving the car her brother sold her last year. Busan is Sue's hometown, and while she used to go home often, now she has a lot of work and sports on weekends, so there's no time. They chat for a bit, and Lucas wonders what he should do with his life now that he has a lot of money. The ride is at a leisurely pace with pleasant interactions between Lucas and Sue. When they stop to take a break from the road, Lucas buys the girl a coffee. He is surprised that his colleagues are so eager to discuss work issues with Sue, and she thanks Lucas for his help. Sue fidgets uncomfortably and looks away, a blush covering her cheeks. Having finally made up her mind, she approaches Lucas to see if he wants to go shopping with her that evening. Sue hasn't been shopping for a long time, and she also has something to talk about. Lucas thinks about her proposal, but decides that a distraction would be nice. So he agrees, and later the 2 of them go shopping. The first thing they do is go to a clothing store and look at business suits. Lucas, who is no longer used to shopping, does not understand why he cannot order the same thing on the internet, but at a better price. Sue suddenly offers Lucas help in choosing and buying a suit, and he is surprised by this offer. Clothes are a kind of bribe because the girl has an awkward request. Lucas has enough money for shopping, so he demands that Sue stop delaying the awkward conversation. Blushing as hard as she can, Sue fumbles for words and finally asks Lucas to act as her boyfriend in front of her parents. He is stunned, but Sue explains that the younger sister already has a partner and her parents are pushing Sue into a relationship. Blushing at the unexpected request, Lucas tries to comprehend it. But still, he agrees to help his colleague, and in the evening they go to a restaurant. Sue's parents are very happy to meet their daughter's chosen one. They interact politely with Lucas, crack jokes, and try to please him. They wonder if the heroes work in the same company, and Lucas confirms this. Sue's mother is curious about how they became friends, so Lucas explains that they became close when he taught the girl the basics of their work. The parents are satisfied with this answer, and they continue their peaceful meal. Lucas recalls a completely different emotional dinner with his ex-wife's relatives. They were negative and aggressive towards him and raised their voices. They also asked many questions about the hero's parents, who had already died by that time. Bombarding them with questions about money and real estate, they put pressure on Lucas that after the wedding, he would be obliged to help them with money. Lucas felt terrible pressure and contempt towards him from them. Lucas's own opinion was of no interest to anyone, and he failed to impress his ex-wife's relatives. Sue's parents received him warmly and kindly and made him feel at peace. The girl's mother asks if Lucas liked the food, and he actively praises it. The experience he shares during his fake date with Sue is completely different from what he had already experienced in his previous marriage. After the date, they said a warm goodbye to Sue's parents, who were pleased with the meeting. The girl's mother subtly hints to her that she doesn't have to return home to spend the night. Lucas reflects that only money helped him not to feel awkward that evening, because his ex-wife trampled on his confidence. Sue's mother, laughing at the girl and her chosen one, asks them to give birth to their granddaughter first. Lucas breaks out in embarrassment from such a warm welcome. He hears Sue's parents reasoning that he is quite good for their daughter. After meeting their parents, Lucas and Sue go for a walk on the beach. Sue bows shyly in front of Lucas and asks for forgiveness. She is very embarrassed about this evening, but Lucas immediately tries to calm her down. The girl replies that she saw his tense expression on his face due to bad memories from her parents' questions. Lucas realizes that Sue knows about his previous marriage and rushes to reassure her. His parents were kind to him and the food was delicious, so he's not offended. But since the girl still has regrets, he suggests that she smooth things over with a walk to interesting places. Sue immediately begins to think about how to plan the best route. She is so immersed in her thoughts that she walks ahead of Lucas, and he calls her to slow down. However, he understands that Sue is simply very interested in the task received and exhales with a chuckle. Sue's mother's words that she is very stubborn are proven. Suddenly, Sue's eyes turn to something on the beach, and she gets an idea. She points Lucas to the place where she wants to take him. Looking at the place, Lucas feels uneasy and grins nervously. Sue's interest turns out to be a fortune-teller's tent located nearby on the beach. When the heroes decide to do fortune-telling, Sue gets a good result because she has good and clean energy. The fortune-teller describes the girl positively, both as a colleague and as a person. Sue is very happy that luck will help her in life. However, the fortune-teller points out that Sue recently missed a chance at something. The fortune-teller says she needs to be bolder and not hesitate. Lucas listens to their conversation out of the corner of his ear. He absolutely does not believe in these fortune-telling. The fortune-teller says that Sue will still have another chance and she must be strong and attentive. Lucas can barely hold back a sigh at the fortune-teller's words. However, Sue persuades the man to take part in the fortune-telling. According to the girl, the fortune-teller is trustworthy, but Lucas has no questions that he would like to ask her. He tries to shift the focus back to Sue's interests, but the tenacious gaze of the fortune teller is already fixed on him. The first thing a stranger tells him about him concerns the hungry times that Lucas went through, and this shocks him. He is stunned that the fortune teller knows about the poverty in which he lived in his youth. However, Lucas, according to the fortune teller, was able to catch great luck, and she even envies him. The fortune teller advises Lucas to travel around the world and experience many things, because this will allow him to increase his luck even more. She assures that Lucas can live the way he wants, without looking back at the past, and everything will work out for him. Sue casually tries to find out how lucky Lucas is in his personal life. Lucas immediately immerses himself in thoughts about the fortune teller's words, and has no idea how he can change his lifestyle. However, he still found it pleasant to hear good predictions. When the time comes to pay for fortune-telling, Lucas is horrified by the large amount, although he has hundreds of times more in his account. Nevertheless, they leave the fortune teller in high spirits. Sue invites Lucas to eat conger eel with her at the market. She takes the still pensive man by the jacket and leads him along. Lucas doesn't know what to expect from the future yet, but he's starting to feel interested in it. In total, the heroes need 4 days to set up work in Busan, after which they return from their business trip. Lucas returns from a business trip to his abandoned apartment. He immediately rushes to the computer to check the Bitcoin rate. At first, he is horrified that he did not sell the assets sooner, because he lost 200 million. But very soon, he earns 300 million per hour. He breathes a sigh of relief, but still doesn't understand what to do with the assets. He is mentally exhausted because he spent the whole weekend watching the Bitcoin rate. He is tormented by doubts about when to sell assets and whether it is worth doing it at all. But then the weekend passes and he goes back to work in the office. During lunch, he listens to colleagues discuss real estate investments. Lucas ended up not being able to rest properly and therefore is not focused enough. Now he has 40 billion won in his account and wonders if the price of Bitcoin can rise even higher. Colleagues curiously try to find out how his and Sue's trip to Busan went, and the man says it's calm. Senior colleagues joke with Lucas about this in a friendly manner. Lucas's colleagues return to discussing investments. Lucas's manager says he's thinking about investing in Bitcoin, which makes Lucas wince. Men think that they should have invested earlier. Then, they would have earned more. They decide to study in detail the issue of possible investment in Bitcoin. Conversations about cryptocurrency are becoming increasingly lively. This time, Lucas focused his attention on the conversation. Having heard his colleagues' discussions, he decides that Bitcoin will continue to grow. This makes him, consumed by greed, want to wait and not sell his assets yet. He continues to closely monitor changes in the price of Bitcoin on the market. Lucas is shocked that the price of Bitcoin has dropped a lot recently and he has lost 6 billion won. During his next break at work, he goes out to get some fresh air. The lost money haunts him. Lucas can't come to his senses. The amount he lost while waiting could have been his salary for 140 years of work. He immediately grabs his phone to check his assets. Lucas is overcome with anxiety and wonders whether he should sell his Bitcoins immediately. There is no need to be greedy anymore. He already has more than 30 billion won. However, at this moment, Lucas is approached by his colleagues, eager to find out what he is doing. Lucas jumps in surprise, not expecting to be interrupted. Lucas's colleague grins when he sees him studying the Bitcoin course. He asks if the man wants to invest in Bitcoin, and Lucas sweats nervously as he comes up with an answer. Colleagues are sure that since Lucas looks unwell, there are some problems with the investment. He does not name the actual amount, but his colleagues still support him and wish him good luck. Lucas sighed heavily, wondering if the price of Bitcoin would actually rise again. He asks his colleagues if they have seen the recent price collapse. The men look at each other, grinning, and shake their heads. Lucas tries to find out what is the reason for such smiles, and one of his colleagues says that he does not follow the news. It shows the current price of Bitcoin, and Lucas is completely speechless. The price shot up again and quite strongly. From relief, he even begins to cry, and his colleagues courageously support Lucas. They convince us that the real takeoff is just beginning. It turns out that one of them bought Bitcoins and has already earned more than 1 million won. However, Lucas is still terribly afraid of another fall. The men's confidence, however, gives him hope that perhaps he can wait a little longer. And literally the next day there is a sharp jump in the price of Bitcoin. This shocks the global community, and everyone is talking about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is becoming a store of capital superior to gold. And yet another day, the price of Bitcoin reaches an exorbitant figure. As a result, Lucas's current assets exceed 100 billion won. When the man sees the total, he becomes hysterical. His heart is beating wildly, he is sweating, and cannot breathe normally. Because all Lucas can do is try to breathe calmly and cry. The man forces himself to calm down, reminds himself that it is not his money until he sells his assets. Now it's really time for him to make a decision. He can't put it off any longer. Therefore, Lucas is tormented by whether he should sell everything or wait further. Not used to such sums, he's afraid of making the wrong move. Greed instantly overcomes him, convincing him that he can earn more. Dark thoughts overwhelm Lucas. He wants to earn tens of billions just by sitting still. Therefore, submitting to these thoughts, he first decides to wait a little longer. But then the voice of his father appears in his memory, who once convinced him that everything would work out. Lucas looks at the framed photo of his father that sits on the closet. Once upon a time, my father